I just did quite a while in prayer. And I'm telling you, if you're not praying, get in the prayer closet. And I've been praying now probably a few months. Some days it's andarabashandarabasa, and then some days the Holy Ghost shows up. So I heard something in my prayer time, and God told me to deliver it to you and you and you. I heard this, but God. I said, what's that mean, Lord? But God. And then he started to give me words, but God. If I didn't see the faithfulness of God in the land of the living, I would have fainted. But God, if my adversaries would have had it their way, they would have killed me. Not physically, but my spirit. They would have killed my spirit. I went to a church, the man was trying to kill my spirit. We'll leave it nameless. The church was in Timbuktu. But God, they came against me many ways and said, you can't do this. You're a businessman. And then God gave me a powerful TV show on cable vision all throughout Long Island. And it's touching the masses. Most churches don't have the audience that I have, but God. But God, there were times I wanted to give up. I just couldn't take it no more. I took all I could take. So I couldn't take it anymore. But God, he saved me. He rescued me. He brought me back. You know, Michael Bolton sings a song, Now That You're Back on Your Feet. Something like that. Go look for the song. Because that song, at times when I wanted to give up, when I said I can't take no more, God came in and said, no, son, but God. There was times that I was in business and I didn't have enough money to pay the bills. And God came and figured a way or gave me a big landscape. I didn't do landscaping, but gave me the ability to sell to a big contractor. And I call that but God. When you listen to this message today, I want you to think of all the times. I want you to start to say it correctly. But God, I thought I was having a nervous breakdown. There were times that I did feel like I was having a nervous breakdown, but God came around and filled me with joy. My face might have not looked like it, but my spirit was elevated by the what do I want to call it? By the hypodermic needle with the spirit of Holy Ghost in it, injected into my soul and my spirit, man. But God, but my God, there were times that my kids, I thought I was losing their attention. They weren't listening to me. But God, if God didn't intervene, I wouldn't have 2 beautiful kids today and 4 grandchildren. My God, I didn't know how to handle them. I didn't know how to raise them. But God intervened. He intervened in my life. I'm just giving you some examples of but God. There were times that municipalities came against my business and said, you can't do what you're doing there. But God came along and said, my son's going to do it, and you're going to give him permission for it. But God. Hey, Brian, but God. I want you to start to say, but God, if he didn't intervene in my life, I would have been stone drunk. And I didn't drink, but I'm just saying I would have been depressed. I would have needed Prozac by the gallons. But my God, he arose in my heart. Gave me the ability to preach the gospel under power and demonstration. But God. Pastor Matt, I'm sure you could say there were times you wanted to give up on your church in the beginning time. But look what God did. Look what God did. But God. I tell you, I was praying. I was doing my for like hours. And all of a sudden, God whispered in my ear, it only takes a minute. You know, there's a song out, it only takes a minute. And God, I was starting to say, Lord, I don't know, and I'm not sure, and I need help, please, please. And he whispered in my ear, but God. And what he's actually saying, he says, go and review what I've done for you already in your life. War against the devil in the prophetic word that's over your life. War against the devil and tell him, my God did this for me, but God. But God, if God didn't intervene, my God, I don't want to be that, hey, bless you. I don't want to be so vulnerable, or what's the word, transparent today. But when I went into that coma for 6 months, I was afraid. This Russian doctor comes up to me. My doctor was in Israel for the week after the operation. But this Russian guy comes and says, he left me in charge. I said, well, let me ask you a question, Doc. What are you going to do? He said, 3 things are going to happen to you. Listen to me, guys. You'll be in a coma a month. You'll be in a coma 6 months. And you'll die. He said, my job is to try to make this not that bad, but I want you to know all 3 things are possible. I said, yeah. But I wasn't that tough, I wasn't that strong in the spirit. I said, at the end, after I got back up after 6 months, beard, think about this whole beard. My hair was the natural color, and it's not this. I said, my God, who's that guy? I remember watching a Steven, what's his name? Steven, oh, come on, help me, guys. He's the guy with the Kung Fu, what's his name? Steven Seagal. I remember him being in a coma in one of his movies, and he walked up just the way I walk up. But I learned to say after that experience, but God. Doctor says I was going to die. My doctor said I was going to die because I went septic. But God, I want you to rise up today, and I want you to get a message. Some of you leaders are listening to me, Brian. Some of you people that have influence, start to preach the message tomorrow in your church. But God. You see, I got all this from Jesus. I got all this from Paul's writings, right? I got this from David when he said, if I didn't see the faithfulness of God in the land of living, I would have fainted. Take my message, take my words, deliver them to the people that you're under, and give them a but God. Do you know what kind of faith is going to come alive in the congregation when you start to remind what they've been through? And the only way to do that is you got to tell them what you did. And people like it when you're real honest and you're, the words aren't coming to me, and you're open-hearted right in front of them and tell them, you know what? You're seeing me now, and the church is doing good, and life's doing good, and I got 2 cars, 3 grand. You got to start to say this. Say, but if it wasn't for God, there were times I wanted to faint. We need more believers, honestly, to become more, I can't get the word. What's going on? I used it earlier. To become more, I can't get this word. I'm going to get it. I'm going to stay here a second. I'm going to use the word open-hearted again. Put their life out to the public. You don't have to say everything you went through. I don't say everything I went through. Transparent, thank God for the prophetess. Transparent. They didn't own it. They're talking in the third man when they speak. Do you understand that expression? They're talking about they've been through it, but they really weren't. Man, Pastor Matt has stripes. You guys got to get friendly with Pastor Matt Sarno. I think that's how Sassano. You gotta just as a favor to the prophet, gotta listen to his wife, and you're gonna love these people because these people are like us. We gotta lift up the pastors that are doing the right thing in this hour. When you see a pastor that's really following God, you better be rooting for him. I don't have a problem with that. But my God, come on, guys. But God. My husband was going to leave me, but God. My health insurance gave out, and they didn't want to give me health insurance, and we couldn't afford it. But God. I wanted the bigger car, but I felt I could only afford the smaller car. But God. I'll tell you a quick story. I went and bought this beautiful Mercedes convertible. It was $120,000. This is about 3 months ago. I go back in the showroom and I see this new car, that convertible, but it's a racing car. I said, wait a minute, to the sales guy. I said, I got like 1,000 miles on the car you gave me, but why didn't you show me this? He said, we didn't think you would fit in it. We didn't even think. I said, buddy, you did me a disservice by not showing me this car. I said, get the owner down here. So he comes down. I said, owner? Oh, so the salesman says, you got to give me $22,000 extra to trade that car back in. I only got 1,000 miles on it. It was like 3 weeks old. I said, oh my God, are you kidding me? He said, we'll build it into the loan. We'll work it out. I said, it's still going to be a higher monthly payment, right? The owner comes down. I start to talk this story. He's looking at the ground. He's not giving me any eye contact. I'm not liking him. He calls his general manager over. He says, this is Huntington Mercedes. He said, get him out of that car he bought. It's got 1,000 miles. We're going to ask him for $5,000 for the 1,000 miles and get him into whatever he wants. You ever see Vic Benedetto, the comedian? He goes, I did one of these. Right? I said, man, this is unbelievable. I got the car. I got the car of my dreams. But God, I'm trying to make it easy for you guys to send up a praise. Say, God, I know I've been, listen. I know I've been doing a lot of complaining lately, but I'm sorry, Lord. I didn't think of what the prophet said today. But God, if you didn't show up, I would have not been able to move forward in my gifting. But God, I wish Jennifer was here listening to this, because she's got a lot of but God stories. God bless you guys. God's with you. He loves you. I love you. And we are going to build an army on Facebook. I promise you. You'll see it. And you know what? You that love me are going to help me. So think of ways that you could help me on Facebook. Let's touch the world and make Jesus' name great again in the land.